What's good, podcast world? What's good, YouTube?
Sixers are in trouble. I need a top five.
Man, let's get into best of the week, man. What's good, podcast world? What's good, YouTube? Back for another episode of Charge It to the Game Sports Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Rome. Got here with Big Z. Jay is not joining us today, man. He's out in Dallas. I think he's actually headed to the fight. But either way, man, we're joined by somebody who's very more beautiful than him. You know, she got the hair out. You know what I mean? If you guys can recognize, last time she had the braids. Now she got the fro, the curly hair. Ice is young, everybody.
Oh man, what's up? Oh, I feel so bad for Jay. I feel so bad. I never met him, and he just gets so much shade from me, and I haven't met him. But thank you for having me here. I think he's just dodging me, honestly, is what I think is happening.
Literally. Like I said, I know we talked a little bit before the show. Jay, I know you listening, brother, or you're gonna listen at some point, man. Why are you running from ISIS? ISIS, AK. I don't know what it is, man. I don't. Every time we have her on the show, we had her on the show the first time you weren't here. You know, now today you're not here, man. But like I said, it is what it is. Have fun, brother. But Ice, man, it's like I said, it's a pleasure. It's always an honor to have you on the show. And for the people that don't know, she was the young lady that came on our show last time. And it's probably one of our most inspirational guests, man. I mean, one of my favorites. I mean, honestly. I follow her on IG. Ice, what's your IG if people want to follow you?
My IG is IceYoung23_.
Dope.
IceYoung23_. Yeah.
Dope, man. But we're gonna get right into it today. So we're gonna be talking to Ice today. I mean, she has so much going on. Professional basketball player and now new color commentator for the Connecticut. So I'm gonna get into that. How did that happen? We're gonna talk about some WNBA stuff, some college basketball stuff. Don Staley there at South Carolina winning the chip. And then obviously for the some of our guys that want to talk about this playoff stuff, we're gonna talk about it, man. So what's going on? What's going on with the Nets? What's going on with Luka? Luka's out game 1. We're gonna talk a lot about, like I said, we're gonna talk a lot to talk about. But first things first, man. So Ice, can you tell us a little bit about what's been happening lately? I know it's been a whirlwind and so many things have happened. So what is going on now currently in Ice Young's life?
Yeah. So I'm in Greece playing professional basketball. It's my first year. My team is called Niki Lefkadas. It's in Lefkada, Greece, which is a little island. It's really a tourist island. So the time that I've been here is not tourist season. So it's been kind of quiet, which is good. I like that it's a small city where I can focus and really focus on my craft and hoop a lot. And then obviously get to experience the culture. I really like the Greek culture. There are beautiful views everywhere. I went to the beach 3 days in a row the last few days to get some fresh air. It's 70 degrees here. So it's literally the beach is across the street from my house, like across the street down the alleyway. And I'm like on the beach and I see like mountains in the background. It almost looks fake, honestly. Like I put up a poster, but it's awesome. We're, in playoffs right now. We've had a long season. Still, COVID has been a factor during our season. So we've had some games canceled. Normally we play once a week. Towards the end of our season, we had 4 games in 10 days because we had to make up games from them getting canceled because of COVID. Wow. So that was tough and hard to establish a rhythm when you're getting games canceled because of COVID and you don't play for 2 to 3 weeks at a time. But had a lot of experience with that in the college season the year before. So, kind of used to it. But I just really love, overseas basketball. It has its ups and downs for sure. One of them being just changing teams. When I, was first coming to Europe, I was going to Germany. I have a little brother who plays professional soccer. I just finished watching his game before I hopped on with you guys. And so Germany was the country that I really wanted to go to be close to him. And so went to a team in Germany that was 3-4 hours from him by train. Was there for 2 weeks and I didn't go vaccinated at the time. I just didn't want to get vaccinated. I wanted to take my chances without it. And so was on the team, was doing well, and they just wanted someone that was vaccinated. That they know, if the rules and regulations had changed, that they wouldn't have to give up a player that was going to play. And when you're an American and you're an import player, you're considered a big part of the team. So I didn't like being fired, I guess, for my first real job. But it's a business. I understood it. It happens. Everything happens for a reason. So I had a really cool experience. I kicked it in Germany. I was near the military base, Ramstein, which is one of the biggest bases. Yeah, one of the biggest bases over here, American bases. And so it was little mini Houston over here.
Not Houston, really?
Yes, because everybody is from Houston. Everybody was from Houston, and it was just one of the guys that I met out here was a trainer. He used to train the team that I worked with, but didn't any longer. So he had his own gym. And so he had offered for me to come and train there. And so when I got fired from my job and I was kind of looking for the next job, I had some time to stay in Germany. And so what I did was I just stayed in the gym. I trained with him, and then I trained the kids that were at his gym. And so I became a whole trainer. I kind of got a second job really quickly. Worked out with him. He played pro for over 10 years in Germany. So it was really cool learning from him. And then training Americans that are over in Germany that are trying to get that American experience. So I loved it. Honestly, if I didn't have the job that we're going to talk about later, I was planning on staying in Europe and coaching one of the girls teams and going around Europe and taking this travel team and playing tournaments. Yeah, I had a whole plan.
You liked it that much?
Oh, I loved it. I mean, it's just I've been a trainer before, back home, because it's a kind of a thing you get into. When you're trained, you kind of get into training. It's just easy, right? And so I love training kids, and especially, young Black kids. It is really cool to see young Black families thriving in different countries. And the fact that they are spending money on their children, trying to get them to get expertise in a sport, where obviously the United States is king, so they're doing it in a different country. And so for me to be there and be able to create relationships with them and help them was awesome. So that has to be one of the coolest experiences that came out of nowhere. I was sad and crying in the car because I was fired. And a week later, I was in the gym training a girls team in the middle of a scrimmage, yelling at people for not boxing out. And it was awesome.
Oh, man.
So I stayed there. I have a little second home in Europe now. I definitely plan on going back one day. And then I found a new agent and got on this team in Greece. And it's been really good ever since. Just been doing well in the league, getting good numbers, leading scorer on my team right now. And just honestly trying to grow my game. This is also my first real full season after my ACL injury. I played 14 or 15 games in college, but that was the COVID year. And it was crazy. I couldn't even really call that a season. You just kind of played blocks of games randomly. Yeah. So this is also me establishing that my body is good, my knee is good, it's strong, and I can really compete over here. So it's been great. It's been up and down, but it's honestly been great. God is so good.
Man, that's dope. Mm-hmm. I mean, the fact that you said, you're doing more than competing. You're probably one of the leading. Well, you say you're the leading scorer on your team. You're doing more than competing. You're a key piece toward, a company and the organization over there. And like I said, I'm happy that you're following your dream because, like I said last time, you were at the forefront. You were going into something new, and you wanted to do that. Now you're doing it. So, like I said, just hearing from you is always an inspiration for people that listen to our show. Me, Z, everybody. Like I said, you one of my favorite guests that we've had on the show.
And look, once again, Ice gives us a jewel. Every setback is a setup for a comeback. So just always stay positive and keep going.
You, Big Z. Freeze. It really be you. You like the gems. You like those.
You always give it to us. All I got to do is listen. All I got to do.
Yeah, it's always the little things. What's the movie with Denzel? Was like, it's the little things, Jimmy. It's the little things. I forgot what it's called, but that's dope, man. So overseas experience. So I know you said that you got a playoff game coming up. So big playoff game coming up tomorrow, right? So
tomorrow.
Tell us about that heading into it. So tell us about the playoff format for some people that might not know about overseas basketball.
Yeah, that's a really good question, Ron, because the format is different than anything else I've ever been a part of. So the top 8 teams in the league make the playoffs. So the first round is 1 to 8, 2 to 7, so on and so on, right? And then the top 4 that win go into their top half, and then you have the bottom half. And so it works in series, the playoffs. All the playoffs are like series, but the series are continued from your regular season record with the team. So, for example, we were the 8th team, just got in there, but I'm happy we're in the playoffs, right? It doesn't matter how you got there as long as you got there.
Yeah.
And so we were 0-2 against number 1 team during the season. So all they had to do was beat us once to get like the best of 5, right? To get 3 wins, and then they moved on. So it's kind of like best of 5, but you've already played 2 of the games during the regular season, right? So the team that we're playing now, we split 1-1 with during the regular season. So now we've got to at least win 2 games, right, to get to 3-2 or whatever. So team played the other day, and we had dropped that one, so now we're down 1-2. All we got to do is win tomorrow, and then we play again on Wednesday. So the playoff series is Wednesday, Sunday. So every team goes through this. So depending on your record with the teams, you could have more games or less games. The important thing to highlight is the reason why they have the bottom half of the league playing is because the team that places 5th place is eligible for Euro Cup, which is a big league that is over here under Euro League. And so you want to be a team that, competes in Euro Cup. For Americans like me who want to compete, that makes a difference between choosing one team versus another team, if you can compete in Euro Cup or not. And so
can you explain that? So it's all the teams all the top teams in Europe in a different tournament.
Yeah, correct? So it's Euro League is like the top of the top, right? Those are like the historical clubs that you hear about. For Greece, it would be like Olympiakos and Panathinaikos, right? But I guess on the men's side, because on the women's side, it's always different. Sometimes they don't always equal out the same way. But Euro Cup is the European tournament that is right underneath EuroLeague, like the second in line, right? So it'd be like the NBA and the G League. Okay. But the difference is that you play teams all across Europe that are eligible for it. And that series is also 2 games. So like my team, before I got to this team, they were in Euro Cup, had qualified for it, and played against a team, I think that was from Turkey, and had played the first 2 games and lost. So they were kind of kicked out of it. So it's a big deal to be in Euro Cup. What I'm, looking at now and seeing is that there's just such a difference between a team that's a top team in Greece and maybe the top team in Turkey, because Turkey is a really top league, but they're not a top league where all their teams would make it to Euro League. So they fall in Euro Cup, things like that. So it's really cool, but it's something that you want to be eligible for if you want to compete against the best across Europe and not just in your respective country. And so we're trying to fight to, finish 5th. So that way, if anybody does return to the team next year, you're eligible to play in Euro Cup. Yeah.
I got you, man. So
it's a lot. Honestly, it's something I had to learn. I wish there was like a guideline to overseas basketball, because the things that you learn over here, if you really don't pay attention and you don't watch it a lot, like you do college basketball and the NBA, the rules and regulations and things that are different, you will be over here lost. The
rules are different, like the basketball. What are some of the differences?
Simple things like you can't call a timeout in the middle of the play. So like if I jump ball, I get the ball, I want to call a timeout. That doesn't exist over here. Yeah. Wow. On the free throw line, there is only allowed 6 people on the free throw line. So it's the shooter and the other 2 offensive players, and then 3 defensive players. Like you can't pack it in and have 4. There's no advantage, right, so to speak. Right. So there are some differences that I guess you should do research before you come over here, but who really reads a rule book, and says like, I don't know. You've got to watch games and pick it up, before you get over here so you have an idea. But I don't like the timeout one. I will say that. I'm not a fan. I think that it kind of ruins the game. Some people could say it's an advantage because it challenges players to make plays without game stoppage. It's less on the coaches, right, to be able to direct. But maybe that's why I like it. I've always been a point guard, so an extension of like coach on the floor. So I'd rather have the timeout to draw the play, to call the play, to advance the ball, to have a chance. But that's just my things. I also think, though, Europe is still kind of a little bit behind in terms of American style of play. So I could see that in the future, some of those rules changing to match what they do ultimately in the NBA, I would think.
Got you. Okay.
Yeah.
Before we get into the new stuff, I wanted to ask you, so what type of season are you having? I know you say you're leading score and stuff like that. Individually, I mean, obviously, basketball is a team sport, but individually, how do you think you're doing so far?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, it's been up and down. I've scored in double figures all but one game. I think we've played now about 20 games. So that I've been pretty consistent with that. I've had some really good games. I'm a shooter, so I've had some really good games where I've hit like 6 3-pointers like 3 or 4 times.
Oh my gosh.
And then I've had some games where I haven't hit a 3-pointer and I've had all layups, or I've scored the majority on the free throw line. I think from college, something that I've improved on is my free throw percentage. I think I'm shooting 82%. In college, I think before I got to Siena my last year, I was maybe like 60%. And it's probably because I wasn't getting the free throw line regularly. Yeah, but that's still not very good obviously for a shooter or a guard. And so proud of me for improving on that. And I would just say, just developing different parts of my game. I think beginning of the season, no one knew me. So I could fire, threes in transition and threes in the half court, and they wouldn't really know to guard me. But you can tell, after 4 or 5
close now.
Yeah. after
half court.
Yeah, after 4 or 5 games, people watching film and stuff, they're like, okay, she's a shooter. And so then I realized in the middle of the season, I was kind of having a lull because I wasn't getting as many threes off that I wanted, but I also wasn't really shooting the mid-range like I should. And then I came back up and I was like, okay, my mid-range game came back out of nowhere. And I was knocking down shots and stuff. So I feel like now I'm probably the most complete that I've been all season, which is good. And I think that's something that I go through every year. You go with your bread and butter first and what you know how to do best. And then other people adjust to that. And then you really dive in your toolbox and you figure out, okay, how can I find other ways to score? I'm a 2 guard here. Like I'm not a point guard, I'm a 2 guard. And so my job is to score. They literally told me hiring me, like, we want you to score 20, 25 points a game. And that's like your job. And like, if you do that, like we'll have a chance to win. So one thing that I really love about overseas is it's not really political. Like if I come in and I do my job and our team has a chance to win and I'm doing what I'm supposed to do and I get paid, that's it. I go home and I wake up and I do it tomorrow. It's not about who recruited you or necessarily who's a veteran. I haven't really experienced that. I've just experienced you do your job, you'll get paid to do your job. And so I like that because I'm good at doing my job. Like I'm good at getting in the gym, getting extra shots up, studying film, doing the things I need to do to win. So yeah, I would say that's the season I'm having. Right now I'm averaging like 16, 4, and 3.5 assists a game. I will say, beginning of the season, I was playing a little bit of point guard, so I was struggling with turnovers, like anything else, just being in a new league, new defenses. And so I have gotten that down and have worked on that. I think my game, I like to take risks. I like to play in transition. And so I think I will always face kind of a turnover issue, not issue, so to speak, but I think I will always look at my game and be like, okay, like we've had 3 games with 4 turnovers in each game. Can we get that down? Because I like to play gutsy. And so it comes with that. But I think, as I mature, I'll get better at that. And the goal is really just like to continue to have good seasons. Like the goal for this season was just to get in here, to make sure that I knew I could play at the level that I was at, to do well, and then to do well enough to see if I can move up next year. Whether that's obviously making more money, but maybe getting into a better league or staying in this league, dominating it next year, and then moving up. And so that's another thing I like about overseas is it's up to you. It's up to you and how you play and how you produce. That gets you to where you want to go ultimately, really. I think over here, everybody recognizes good talent and style of play. And so as an American, eyes are always on you. And I kind of like that, really.
That's good.
Have you had crowds at the game, and what have the atmospheres been like? Because the Greek Basketball League has been just rowdy, festive.
Intense.
It's a party.
No. Yeah.
Listen. So I came to this team in October, and one of the first teams we played was Panathinaikos, which is a historic club. Like whether it's soccer, basketball, like globally, they are known. Yeah. And so we're playing away in Panathinaikos, and I've never been, and I don't really know much about it. Like I just know it's a historic club. I don't know anything about it. So we get in there and like everything is green. They're like greened out, like leprechaun, like everything, right? And we're warming up. and their gym is like kind of like a little bit underground. I call it like the dungeon. Like it was just like a dungeon. And so like you had windows at the very top, but you could tell that after a while, like there were no more windows because you were underground.
Yeah.
And so it was really intimate, and like between like the last like 3 minutes of warm-ups, like it was just a flood of people. Like I felt like they dropped off like buses of people who walked in, and they walked in with drums, with weed, with flags. Like, no, I'm serious. We start the game, and I'm like, we're in time. I'm like, yo, do y'all smell weed? And they're like, yeah, man, that's normal. You just gotta let that go. Like, it's just what, bro? No wonder my shot ain't going in. Well, I'm high on the free throw line because of y'all. What's going on?
For real.
But yes, that was the environment, and it was like, you know, it reminded me of like playing in some of my most competitive college games, like, you know, at Syracuse playing against Notre Dame and being at Notre Dame, where like the fans are constantly heckling the refs. You can't hear a play call. Everything is a symbol. Like we're up there doing Illuminati sign, like, you know, trying to
not the Illuminati sign.
Yeah, because you can't hear. You know, you can't hear. So you're like, what are we running? Motion. And like this wasn't for motion the game before because we could say it, but now I can't hear you. Yeah. And so it was really cool. I just remember the environment. Like I remember telling my parents afterwards, like, yo, that was like the coolest thing ever. I had no idea. So yeah, I definitely think that they're crazy. I've never had any bad experiences or anything like that. Like nobody throwing water bottles or calling names. But it's just
your mouthpiece. No
mouthpiece. No. But yeah, it was really cool. And then the level of respect, you know, when you're playing against one of the top teams, you see the level of respect that you want to get from them. And I think that was something that I really liked. It's just, as I got later in the season, like, okay, these are the teams where you want to have your best games because you want them to respect you. And so that was definitely a really cool and different experience. But yeah, I think, you know, our home games, like I said, we're on a tourist island, so it's kind of hard because there are not a lot of town people. But we do get fans. It's gotten better during the season as we won more games. Something I will never get used to is the drums during the games, though. Like
it's a festival. It's a party.
Yeah,
is the gym big though?
Yeah, our gym. I will say our gym is big. Pauk, which is out of Thessaloniki, another well-known club in Greece. They have a stadium which is beautiful. It's beautiful. It's better than most colleges I've seen, and I've been to really good schools where they have really good stadiums. It's beautiful. Right. But yeah, like the drums, like, you know, just drumming for everything after a shot, after a bad call, you know, coming at the referees. I think it's hilarious how they come at referees here. Like people will get up out of their seat. You know, there's like a railing on the court. Yeah. And people will get out of their seat, hang over the railing, and be yelling at the ref. And I'm like, oh my God, you know, calm down. And that's just really like their culture here. So like I said, they don't do it against players. Really. Yeah, they don't do it against players, but against referees, like they should come at them. Because one thing I will tell you is like universally referees are terrible. It doesn't matter what country you're in, what level, where you are terrible. Yeah. But otherwise it's really cool. It's great. It's an experience like anything else.
Wow.
I gotta go. Like, and this is coming from a guy I have yet. Well, Z's been many years. I haven't been out the country. Not yet. You know what I mean? So we'll see. But I mean, it just sounds dope. The whole atmosphere, and like I said, one of the reasons why I asked is the gym big. If you're in a compact gym, I mean, where there's no place for the sound to go, and it's going to be loud as hell. But if it's big, you know, if it's a bigger gym or, you know, something like that, you know, it's not going to be as loud, you know?
Yeah, it's a party. I went to a game in Colombia traveling. I don't speak Spanish, and I was singing the songs with the people. Just in the crowd. You just get into it. The drums and the horn. Yes. And I'm just like, this is crazy. It's just a party the whole game long.
It is. And it makes you think, really, you can't go by yourself. Like, you've got to experience it with a group of people. You got to take the gang with you and, like, experience it. When I went, I was able to make it to my brother's soccer game in Germany. And, you know, Germany is like a haven for soccer. Yeah. Like, that is their Lord and Savior above all things. And he plays in the third league. And I mean, the things that fans were saying, I don't speak German, but I knew what they were saying. Like the things that they're saying. And like there, I saw some cups being thrown, different things like that. And I had thought about, I'm like, yo, let me not say anything crazy. Come on, man. Myself. And
you only one person. Was you yourself, or was you with your crew, or what?
I was literally, it was just me. I came to visit my brother. It was in a waiting an hour and a half away. So I followed the bus and I drove his car. And so like, I'm also the only one who looks like me in the stands, like literally the only one. So you know who I'm there for. No, I look just like number 30. Stop it. Yes, I'm his big sister. Like you already, there's no explanation. But I remember like somebody came to me early and was like, you can stand with us if you want. And something in my head was just like, go stand with them. Go make sure, like you're not really by yourself because people like it's serious over there. But I love it though. I really do. Like, I love it. I love that it's part of their culture. And it's like anything else, when you're doing awesome and they love you, they love you. The people at dessert shops give you free desserts and say good job and like come up to you and hug you. And then when you're not doing so good, like we're not doing so good. And you just, might want to keep it pushing. That's sports. That's why we love it, So it's a really cool environment, honestly, to be able to experience that, like in soccer at a different sport and just be a spectator and then be able to play it over here and be at historical clubs and experience their fans. And then their fans travel. We played Olympiacos, one of the other top teams here at home, and you'd have thought it was a home game for them. Like they came again, buses, flooded, drums, everything. Like it was a lot. So, but it's just so cool to experience. I'm just thankful for it, honestly.
I'm happy you're doing well, man. Like I said, it just seems like you're having a good time. You know what I mean? So,
it's a party, Big Z. It's a party. It's one big old
party. But moving on, man. So enough about that. So I wanted to ask you. So now, this is your first season, the Connecticut Sun. Really? So tell us about that. How did that all transpire? Because I saw you posted on your social media. I was just like, what really? And I have a special connection with the Connecticut Sun. I obviously don't know none of the people on the team personally, but we kind of talked a little bit about it before the show. Sorry, I'm a heavy sports bettor. I bet on the Connecticut Sun. I bet on WNBA basketball, and I'm winning cash. And then 9 times out of 10, it's on the Connecticut Sun. So how did that transpire? So
we know you had a lot of money last year because they was 15-1 at home.
Yes, sir.
So you was what you get with that? Your t-shirt you got on?
I bought a few things, a few little nice things. I mean, shout out to the heavy hitter Jonquel Jones because I watched the games vividly. I mean, she's just amazing. But go ahead. Yeah.
Honestly, guys, I didn't do much. Like I was here, I was focusing on basketball. An alumni from Syracuse had DM'd me. We follow each other on Twitter, but I had never met him in person, never had talked to him before this. And he just DM'd me and said, "Hey, Ice, just want to know if I can chat with you. Do you have some time?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." Like it's a Q's alum, and I saw in his bio that he's a play-by-play for the Sun. So I was like, maybe it's WNBA related, but maybe it's not. Maybe it's just about Syracuse. And so I had a conversation with him, and he's like, we're looking for an analyst. They want someone that's up and coming, a rising star. And my agent had passed on your name. I did some research and feel like you could be a good fit. Like, are you interested? I was like, of course I'm interested. Like, why would I not? Of course I'm interested. And so it's interesting because I was sitting over here and you have a lot of time. Like, if you only have 1 practice or 2 practices, you're not practicing for longer than 4 hours if you have 2 practices, right? And so it's just a lot of time where you kind of just sit, like you can go explore a little bit, you can Netflix a lot, but I was kind of sitting over here and I'm like, what am I going to do this summer? Because I want to stay relevant with broadcasting. But I also really want to focus on basketball, and I don't want to feel like if I go and play overseas for the next 5, 6, 7 years and I come back that I'm irrelevant, and I've lost my skills and I've lost my connections in the industry. And there are, younger rising stars who are coming up and getting these jobs, like anything else. Right. So I was, kind of worrying about that, but figuring out what I could do. And so when he reached out, I was able to get connected to the VP. I did 1 interview with her, which is not very long. I think we talked for maybe like 20, 25 minutes. She interviewed with me without even seeing my reel, which I thought was interesting. And so after that, she asked me to send, my reel. I sent it to her, and she called me 3 days later and was like, "We'd like to offer you the job."
Wow.
And I was
Just
like,
that.
cool. When I tell you, I did nothing. Like, I honestly think, I was talking about this other day to my mentee, and I just was like, I just think it was all the work that I did in college, all the broadcasting, and that year that year that I spent at Fordham, out with an ACL injury, rehabbing that, but really doing freelance stuff with all the different schools and building those connections. It just really served as like a career year for me to get my name in the door, for people to know about me, for me to have a good reel. Because 90% of my reel is from that year, which is great. And that's what I needed it for. So I think that, along with some of my mentors who vouched for me, just made it a simple, easy decision for them, and an easy answer for me. Their season goes from, May to middle of August. I left last year last year in the middle of August to go overseas. So it fits perfectly.
Wow.
I'm kind of like the players, though, in understanding that, obviously I'm still not done my season, and my first game is May 14th. The season starts May 7th. My first game that I'm calling, though, is the 14th. And so I will be home at the end of April, and I will have legitimately 2 weeks to get back on the sleep in the time zone, to figure out all this information and things like that, and then to get there and start work, So I get to call 28 games. I also travel with the team, which was not a part of the original plan. But I'm so happy that, that's what we're doing. And, the more games that we get to call, the more exposure that the league gets, which is the ultimate goal.
Yeah.
And so it just really came out of nowhere. I swear, just God is good. I'm so thankful that when I was in college, I just worked my butt off. And I just, prepared myself for this. And I think that's just all it is, because I haven't done anything in the past year towards broadcasting. Everything has been basketball, which I've loved and I've thrived in. But it's just great to know that the work that I put in paid off. And it's the Connecticut Sun. Like, I'm from Jersey, so it's near home. And it's obviously a really good team. I mean, we returned
the best. Well, one of the best.
MVP, the rating most improved player, the defensive player, the coach of the year. Like, I probably couldn't have a better team and be able to cover them. And so I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, you're probably with one of the best organizations in the WNBA. Like I said, I followed them vividly last season. They have an incredible team, incredible coach, incredible organization. Like I said, for the people that know, I live here in the DMV area. I saw them when they came here and they smashed the Mystics over the head. Keep in mind they didn't have Deladon, so I mean a lot of people in the stands were, hey, we don't got our ace, you know what I mean?
Right.
But I mean they did hit him over the head with something serious, and I got to see Jonquel Jones go for like 30. She might have put up 40 that game. Ooh. Can't remember, but and she was out there balling. But yeah, like I said, that's a blessing. We're looking forward to seeing you on there. Have you done any research on the team, the players? And I know the draft just recently was a few weeks ago?
No, it was this past week.
Yeah. Well, 2 days ago then.
Yeah.
So I guess what do you think of that so far? Or have you even broke that down at all?
Yeah. I've done some research, like anybody who wants to be prepared, I did research on the team before my interview, because I just wanted to go in there and, show them that I was as interested as they are in me. So I was able to do research on the team last year. Once I got on the email list, they give us updates about how the players are doing overseas. And, a lot of them play for really big clubs, so it's cool to see the numbers that they have overseas. You mentioned Jonquel, like she had games where I think one game she had 42 and 23. Like, it was dumb. I was like, what? Is this a typo? What? But yeah, so she's been killing it. She's still on top of her game. Same thing with like Alyssa Thomas, has been doing well. Just a lot of the girls who play overseas, you get the updates. And so it's really cool to keep up with them in that way. Social media helps a lot. Just being able to go back through and see what type of content the team posts and what things they want you to know about the team. The coach, Kurt Miller, he has been around, very well respected, very knowledgeable. And I'm really excited to build a relationship with him. I think he's, from what I've seen, one of those coaches who is very good with the media, very open and honest. And the goal is to grow the game. And coaches at this point have to do that through also being open with the media. So it seemed like he's been a really wonderful addition to the organization since he's been there. And media says good things about him. I think he had, one comment with Liz Cambage last year that was like a little like,
what was it?
He talked about her size. Like, I think he made a basketball comment. It was something around like, you got to box.
Just leave it there.
yeah. And
Liz is a beast. Like I said, for people that don't know, Liz is a absolute beast. You can't stop her. You cannot stop her. That's one way.
I mean,
she gets the ball in the post. What are you gonna do?
Yeah,
just run down the other end of the floor and just get ready to play offense. That's it.
You gotta hope she misses. So from a basketball standpoint, I'm not sure how disrespectful the comment was, but I could understand if someone had said that about me. But I'm tiny. I'm like not more than 140 pounds at 5'7". So like no one's gonna say much about my body and how I look. But other than that, though, I have never heard anything else. So really excited again, like to be media and to be a part of that team. The research part is something that honestly I'm navigating. I've like checked in with some of my mentors who covered the league and asked them, what's the best way to tackle it? What are the best websites or just avenues or people, resources that I can use to make sure that I'm prepared before the season starts. And so really have started to do some of that work actually this week when I had a little time on my hands. But yeah, I think, information overload is one of those things, when you're young and you're a rookie like me going into a new job, you kind of want to know everything. And you just realize you can't, right? You got to understand the most important things, take notes, have a good idea of going in, what you want to talk about, storylines, things important with the league. And especially a league like WNBA, like I said, that is growing. It's important to constantly push those storylines that grow the game, because that is the goal. It's not the NBA, who is already established, not in jeopardy of going anywhere. And so you can sit and spend 40 minutes talking about Kyrie and his dribbling, because that's what we got to talk about, but WNBA is different. And so I'm understanding that, love that, and really excited to cover, some of these teams. You talked about the draft, and I had a former teammate at Syracuse, Emily Englisser, who got drafted in the 4th pick. And I was like, it is so cool that I'm going to be in a league covering teammates. Like covering people who I have played AAU against for, like forever ago. And so that's the other thing, Benijah Laney, like one of the players of the year last year who like really erupted and had a breakout season. Her mother was my AAU coach. Like Benijah used to bust my butt like in practices. We'd be like, oh my God, we're scrimmaging them. Oh, okay. We were like, they were 4 or 5 years older, and she took it to us every time. And so it's just really like awesome to be able to see that I spent time in the gym and playing against these people at such a high level, and now I get to cover them in that way. And it makes it special to cover them because their journey. What they come from. Like they come from Philly, like they come from the trenches. Her mom, like Yolanda, played for Vivian Stringer at Cheney. And so like just the whole depth and being able to talk about that on air is really cool for me. So I think that I also like that. I'm still currently playing. I have a lot of those relationships that I've still continued to nurture and build along the way. And it's only going to help me report on the team and the league in the best way possible. And so I'm really excited about that too.
That's good, man. Like I said, best of luck to you in that. Like I said, I'm looking forward to seeing to you and, hearing more about it.
Thank you.
Moving on, now let's talk a little bit about college basketball. So I think we just talked a little bit about South Carolina just won the national championship, and we
in kind of dominating fashion.
Yeah. It wasn't really even close. Was it head coach at South Carolina? What, Dawn Staley, right?
Yeah.
Amazing lady. She kind of set the bar and the trend now. But one of the highest paid college basketball coaches on the women's side in history, right?
Yeah.
So.
Especially for a woman of color, she's the only coach that holds multiple NCAA championships on the basketball side. That is an African-American coach. She's got 2 national championships. There is no other coach of color, men or women, that have done that. So she's just really in a lane of her own, blazing a trail for those to come behind her. And I just want to say it is always great when somebody beats UConn. I'm like one of those people where, like, I really don't want them to. kind of ever. Yeah. And so, I rooted for Dawn, honestly, because, I grew up watching her. Like we grew up watching her. I'm from South Jersey, so she used to coach at Temple. So we used to go to Temple games. I remember going at 9 years old and asking for her autograph after the game with my best friend, Jada. And our dad being like, it is really cool that you guys get to see that a Black female coach is here and doing well. And we said doing well at Temple. Like imagine meeting her now as a national champion for the second time. And so I just love honestly cheering for her. And I love that Dawn is so authentic. Like, that Dawn is Black, she's from Philly, what she's about. She's in a national championship game wearing jeans and swagged out and Louis sneakers and whatever else. And she comes as herself. I think that that's also great for the game is that, obviously we want coaches to reflect the product that is on the floor, but also to be themselves and not feel like they have to fit a certain mold. And Dawn has really decided, to just be herself, be her authentic self as a coach. And I just think she's a gem. I think just her whole story and all that she's been through, and all the things that she constantly pushes back on the media. She's also one of those coaches who is great with media and really lifts up the Black journalists who cover women's basketball. She's been known to do that time and time again. And I think it's so important. Again, we want the coaches to reflect the product. We also want those that are covering the product to reflect the product. And so Dawn has just been awesome, I think, in all of those ways. And she's been a gem, but, this year obviously solidified that from every standpoint, from a role model, from a coach, from a former basketball player. She's just top tier right now.
Yeah. And one of the things I like and noticed about her, she's very relatable. She's always going to have a stable of young ladies that are going to want to come play for her. Some of these coaches, these college coaches, and like I said, it's going to happen more and more and more, especially with these NIL deals. You're going to have to become a lot more relatable to top talent. And then obviously with the transfer portal and all of the stuff that's happening there, you're going to lose talent. Because, we're seeing it, and we're going to have a whole separate conversation on that. A lot of these coaches that used to get the top dogs are going to places where, the coach is a lot more relatable, the coaching staff, and everything like that. So, I'm like I said, I'm happy to see her shine like that. And that's just another way that for us as people, Black people in the community, she's really helping us shine on so many levels. So
did you see one of the coolest things at the highest moment when they won the championship, when she was on stage, the first thing she did was mention the 5 scout team players by name?
Yes.
And I'm like, who does that?
Yeah.
It's a glimpse into her personality.
Yeah, because you got to take people with you. Like they don't realize, but the reason why South Carolina is so good is because they're scrimmaging against those guys day in and day out. Obviously, it's the other 30, 32 teams that they play throughout the year, but they make a difference. And I love that. I think too, like Dawn has a family atmosphere. You can tell that every person who is a part of the process, she acknowledges, right? From the journalists who are sitting in their laps tweeting about the games that are giving her and her team the credit that they deserve, to the scout team members, right, who are at home cheering for them, saying, yo, she definitely dropped 30 on me the other day in practice, but I'm happy for them. Like, if she did that to beat UConn, by all means. So that's another thing about Dawn, is I think she brings, people with her, and she really gives you the family atmosphere. And it's just really cool to see, honestly. I think we need that. Especially in sports, especially on the women's side. And you talked about, transferring and just the mess that comes with that. Like when I first entered college 8 years ago, it was not like that. If you transfer more than once, they were looking at you like, what's wrong with you? Not what's wrong with these places. Now, when people transfer you, like, you don't even think twice about it, whether it's you or the organization or the team or the school, it really doesn't matter, But it makes sense. Someone put it to me the other day. They were like, these coaches, they have contracts, but they're able to leave and get and change jobs, and they have no rules on them leaving or, so to speak, transferring. They can do it freely. Why can't the players do the same? Like, if it's not a good fit, why can't a player do the same? You're at one point, you're 16, 17 years old, committing to a school that's supposed to change the trajectory of your basketball career, right? And you get there and you make a mistake. And it's not the place where you need to be for whatever reason. you should be allowed to go without penalty. And again, if that continues to happen again and again, then it continues to happen. Like I went to 4 different schools. I'm not at all ashamed. Like it lasted a long time, but at the end of the day, like I got to where I needed to be, and it helped me get to my next places. And each step along the way was equally important, honestly.
Yeah, and one of the things, I mean, I will say this with the trims. I love it. A lot of people, and it's mostly like coaches or a lot of more people that are older. They hate it because it's something they're not used to, and most people like that are not willing or open to change. If you're a coach, I can understand why you probably hate it, because it's like it gives the athlete now leverage. Like, you know what? I wanted to play for this guy or this lady. I don't want to play for them anymore. I'm going to transfer, and I'm going to do something that's best for my career. I think the way it used to work in the past, because I used to play college athletics as well. If you wanted to transfer, you had to transfer like down or something. I don't know if that was the same as far as college basketball. I know it's for like college football years ago. If you wanted to transfer, yeah, you can transfer. You either have to sit out a year or you can transfer down. So if you play
it's the same across every sport. Every sport in college. Yeah, NCAA rules.
Yeah. So I mean, but then you're playing. I mean, you might be a D1 athlete. Now you got D1 AA. I'm not trying to shit on D1 AA, but I mean, obviously, Notre Dame gets a lot more exposure than University of Delaware.
Yeah,
let's just be honest. So, but I'm happy for it. You know, I'm all here for it, and I think it's only going to grow, especially with the NIL deals. Like I said, that's just huge. I'm just hearing so much stuff about it on all sides.
And it makes a difference where players will decide to go.
Yeah,
you know, if they are in those cities and towns where their sport is celebrated, and you know that you can get more deals and partnerships and money, you know, at a young age. Like I saw the other day about Paige, and it was NCAA tournament, and they were talking about the players who could make the most out of, you know, these sponsorships or partnerships because of their social media. And it was talking men's and women's side. In the top 5, it was 4 that were on the women's side. And Paige was
women,
and it was one, and Paige was one, and it was like over $60,000. And I'm like, I can't imagine somebody saying like, if I go put on a shirt for the local produce place and then do something for Gatorade, you know, that they pay. Like I can't imagine. I don't know what me nor my parents would do. And so it also makes a difference, I think, in where the players decide to go, because now it can be about money. It's obviously about basketball, but it also is connected to money. And we know we want these players to get ahead. Like get your coin.
Yeah,
I have no problem with it. Like you're chasing an education, which was important to me, but you can also chase the bag.
Right.
At the end of the day, we can't play sports forever.
You can't. And the thing is, to be honest, it's always been about money. But they hate to see the athlete get the money, because then it's like, yo, you're not a professional. These college athletes are professional athletes, but they always hide behind the stigma of, oh, you're a student athlete. You're on our universities. You're wearing our brand. You're doing this and that. Like I said, I just have a major bone to pick with college athletics. I mean, still now with the NIL deal, everybody's not getting paid.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I mean, the star player's getting something, but like, what about the number 2, the number 3, you know, the number 4 best player on the basketball team? And
that's the star players and the star teams. Yeah. Like, please don't think that somebody on the Syracuse softball team, the star player on that team, is making any more than maybe $1,000 from a deal. You know, if anyone is looking at them, you know, because the cash crops at normal schools are basketball and football.
Yeah.
You know, with the occasional like gymnastics thrown in there. Like gymnastics is a sport that will thrive from this, because if you follow gymnastics at these major places, like when I went to the University of Florida, I had never seen a stadium more packed. I was like, is Beyonce in here or is the gymnastics?
That was that right.
I can't lie to you. Like, I had never seen so many people in such a place cheering for women. And like gymnastics. And it was dope. Like, I had a friend on the team, so I'm like, go ahead, girl, like flip and land. Come on, let's do it. But you know, those are the teams that like it's the major teams and the major players. Otherwise, like these other teams aren't benefiting from that. You know, I beg to differ. Like women's lacrosse, like where do you see women's lacrosse really being pushed anywhere, on any platform, on any media platform, at any school? Even if they are the best in the country, you probably won't even know. I can't even tell you number 1 team of women's lacrosse in the country.
You're right. I mean, me living here in Maryland, I think Maryland's pretty good. I know Duke is always
Well, no, yeah, it's
schools like that,
Syracuse.
but
Yeah,
yeah,
Syracuse.
it seems like
You know
most.
what I'm saying? I couldn't even tell you who like won the championship last year. And if I can't tell you that, I can promise you that nobody knows and they're not getting paid.
You're
Like
right.
it's as simple as that, you know?
You're right. Yeah, like I said, it's more for people like the star athlete, but I mean, things have to change some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Because I like I said, I hate to say it. You know, I'm not saying this is gonna happen, but what? No, I'm not even gonna say it. Well, let's just move on. But huh? No,
I was ready for the hot take.
No, I mean, like I said, I think a little different. I think Z might know what I'm talking about, but he might know, but
but if you honestly think of what's her name, Suni Lee, who won the gold medal in the Olympics, is at Auburn as a gymnast at Auburn, and her NIL is
crazy
through the roof.
Yeah, 100%. And she's like a 1 in a million. You know? Yeah, that's 100% though. Yeah. It's just tough. We just need you know, everybody wants like equality and equity and like not understanding how hard it is to really get that because the institutions and just the way that the rules were not made for that. They were not made for that. They were just made to uplift the people who bring in the most money for the school.
Let me ask you this.
Continue to bring in the most money.
Sorry to cut you off. Let me ask you this before we move on to some NBA stuff. For some people, I'm not like this, but you know, I can see how someone can agree. What do you think of people? It's mostly men that say it, that, hey, I agree. You know, I understand people might need to pay like WNBA. WNBA salaries are obviously a lot less than NBA. You know, but at the same time, a lot of people will say NBA is a lot more entertaining than WNBA. They dunk, they do this. Look at the ticket prices. I try to buy a seat to go see the 76ers.
Yeah.
I mean, especially around playoff time, it's around $300-400 minimum. Yeah. I mean, might be even more. But if you go to another team like the Washington Mystics, playoff ticket, it might be like $25-30. What do you think? Because a lot of people think that, you know, I mean, you're bringing in money, but you're not bringing in that much money because of the entertainment value in the pay gap. So that's what a lot of people think is the reason for the pay gap.
Yeah, I mean, ticket sales aren't everything, but obviously they make money. But see, the WNBA is hard because people forget it's new. It's as old as I am. The WNBA is 25, 26 years old. Literally started in 96. So it has had multiple teams who have changed locations multiple times. We even saw in the last few years, like the Las Vegas Aces is a brand new team. I think the organization only been around for 3-4 years. So if that. And so it's not as established, obviously, as the NBA, who is celebrating their 75th year, right? That's 50 extra years of stability and players and franchises and money and old money.
Yeah.
So I get it, but I don't think that it's a conversation about whether it's more entertaining or not. I think depending on what you want, you can look at the NBA and WNBA and say which is more entertaining. I'll be really honest with you. Out of all of them, I would probably watch the WNBA or college basketball more. I am like in love with college basketball. Probably always will be. The NBA is like to me. Like you really don't know who's going to play from day to day. And you don't know if they're going to play hard. Like you get a show and sometimes the show is trash. College basketball, WNBA, man, we out here grinding. Like they really out here for their livelihood because that is it. That is it. Or, you know, college basketball, like, you know, you're still having a coach. So you're having somebody manage you. Like you have a scholarship because you got to go, you know? Yeah. So it's different. And then you're still young. So like the love of the game is still there. You know, you're not a professional. So you're not just doing it for a check. You're also doing it because you love it. Right. But I don't think it's a question of like, is it more or less entertaining? I think it's what you like, but I also think it's how the game is pushed. I did a marketing project one of my last years in school, and we were talking about WNBA, and I had chose that because I really wanted to dive into it and see why they don't make as much money and the things that can change. And it was two things that I realized. One, it's like, is WNBA connected to the NBA or is it not? Like, Is it connected or is it not? Do you want to play in the same arenas where the NBA plays? Do you want the money from the NBA teams, if they have it, to give it to you to make it better? Do you want it or do you not? There are some teams who have great relationships with their NBA team, like the Mystics, right? Like you hear all the time. I remember when John Wall was on the team, you hear all the time that like John Wall would be in the games or Bradley Beal would come to the Mystics games and they all be, like, all be cool.
Yeah.
There are other teams like the Las Vegas Aces where like, you don't get that. You know, you have no connection to like the NBA team. And so I think that's the first thing they got to figure out is like, do you want these teams to be paired with NBA teams? Some say it would help because obviously there's money and there's already an area where basketball is an attraction there. And so you may get some of those NBA fans who slide over to the WNBA side. But on the other side, you may get people who are like, nah, I'd just rather go to an NBA game. I'll just wait for the NBA season to come because this is not my style. This is not what I want. And then I think the other thing is marketing. Like the WNBA, it is a high IQ game. Like it is not about, obviously there's athleticism to it, but it is really about the IQ. That's the only reason why the Subers and Diana Taurasi's at 39, 40 years old can still play and still make it because their IQ is high enough to still master the game. Yeah. It's not because they're physically able to like are superior over these people. That doesn't exist. And so I think WNBA has to be marketed as like, if you want to watch high level basketball and strategic basketball, then you watch WNBA. And that's how it has to be marketed. Some people care about like how the game is actually played. And they care about knowing like the ins and outs of a pick and roll and the science of a pick and roll. Cool. Then watch WNBA. If you want to see a whole bunch of ducks and people play half defense, then go watch the NBA. You know, and then if you might want to see real basketball, you turn on during playoff season. Like that's really it. I only watch the NBA till playoff season. It actually makes me mad because I'm like, what am I really going to get from it? Like it's entertainment. I'd rather watch basketball where I could learn or pick up different things or be like, yo, this person is really hooping and they taking it serious every day. It ain't no off days. It ain't no load management. They ain't here grinding. Like WNBA, you got 32, 34 games in this season. You're playing in 4 months. You know, we talked about my season. My first game is May 14th. The team has 7 games from May 14th to June 1st. 7. Think about that. 7 games. So that is like their schedule. But they only play 32, 34 games. The NBA, you could be like, yeah, that's their schedule, but they got 82 and it's all year. Yeah. You know, and then half of them they ain't playing for. They low management, so they over here really chilling with their kids because they like, yeah, my knee hurt because I played 2 games in a row. Yeah. So it's different. You know, these women are like really grinding and they're earning their pay. I just think it has to be marketed differently. If you market differently and it's respected that way, I think it will be. But if you don't know all those things and you just watching and chilling, maybe I get it. Maybe, you know, if you're not born into a women's basketball lifestyle and you don't appreciate it, it depends on how it's marketed to you. You know, gymnastics was marketed to me. I had never said to myself, I want to go and sit and watch gymnastics. I never said it. But it was marketed to me and I went and I was like, oh, I'm sold. I'm in here every week. This is awesome. It's be marketed to you.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people got to be open to it too. Like some people are just so stuck in their ways. It's like, man, I mean, I'll watch it. I mean, at the end of the day, it is what it is. I love the NBA. I love this. I love that. You know what I mean? But I mean, like I said, I mean, they're trending in the right direction for sure. Like a lot of people are starting to recognize it. I mean, like I said, I love it. You know, I'm looking forward to the season that's going to be starting in a few weeks.
It's going to be interesting once the NIL group go to the WNBA. They're going to be coming in like the Paige or Haley Van Lith from Louisville. They're coming in with big money already from NIL. Going into the WNBA.
And I think it may push out some of the vets because you know what, like you know, think about it. That's a great point, Big Z. Is like, okay, there are only 12 teams and 12 spots, right, for WNBA. So it's 144 people. Like that joint is cutthroat. There are plenty of hoopers I know who could go play DeWanna Bonner one-on-one or Chrissy Tolliver one-on-one or Sue Burr and get them to work, and that aren't in the league. And that's just because there aren't enough spots. It got nothing to do with anything else other than there's not enough spots. But once you get those, I agree with you, like those NIL players like Paige and Haley Van Lith. Can you imagine sending Haley Van Lith to training camp and getting drafted and she's not making the team? Like what do you even say to that? No, for real. Like what do you even say to that? Because that's what's going to happen next. Is like, you know, these veterans, it's just tough because these veterans don't leave because they have a high IQ. They can play the game for a long time in this league. But then you have these up and coming players who we follow them from college. And so if you put them in the league, people will naturally follow the league because they're following them. You know, it's got to become like a player-driven league. I think that's the difference too between the NBA and WNBA. The NBA is player-driven. Like we watch that because I love Ja. Yo, I'm like Ja Morant fan crazy now. I would buy like 8 of his jerseys, put his post up if I could. Like if dude didn't, you know, have baby mom and a kid, I might be like, hey, what's up? Like I'm like super
and then
fan
from a small market in Memphis, and it doesn't matter.
And blew up. You know, went to Murray State, like a no-name college you don't really hear of, but then blew up. And so like people from Murray State were like, oh, well now I'm a Grizzlies fan because I'm following Ja. You know, that has to be followed in WNBA, but it's I don't think it's always like a player-driven league. I think they stand up for some really good causes and some things. You know, we talked about like Breonna Taylor, right? And all the things they did for social justice, which I thought WNBA was great at, right? If we're not going to fight for us, who else will fight for us? Amazing at. But it's got to be a player-driven league. Like these players have these followings that they come in with, and if you don't put them in the league, their followers won't come and follow the league. They're going to drop off with them. You know, somebody the other day was like, where's Tyler Hansborough? And I was like, yo.
Right, where is he?
I was huge fan of Tyler Hansborough. Bro was like a baller for real.
Yes.
He's overseas. And my example to that is like, I'm not over here being like, I'm following Tyler Hansborough overseas. No. But if Tyler Hansborough, the girl version, was playing and was in WNBA, I would have been followed. That would have been a team I was a fan of.
You brought up a good point. Like I said, there's a lot. Now that you brought, there's a lot of guys.
They come in with a built-in fan base because everybody watches the tournament. Everybody watches the final. Like the NC State UConn game, men's women's was one of the best games, hands down.
Yeah.
And people who watch that would follow the storylines and then stick with it, and it would grow.
You got to, you know, you stick with your favorite players, you know, like all of sports, we all have those favorite players who influence us in one way or another, why we play the game or why we follow or why we love certain things or why we love teams, right? There are people who were Kobe fans who were like, I'm a Lakers fan because Kobe, not I'm a Lakers fan and I like Kobe, you know, that has to be built into WNBA. Like you need people saying, you know, yo, I love Sabrina Ionescu. So therefore I'm a New York Liberty fan. And if she stays there for 20 years, you've gained her whole fan base to the New York Liberty, which is now a fan base of NBA. Like they've got to practice that. And so I just, again, but it's just marketing. I think the NBA, because they're more established and they've had that, it's so easy to market these players. And WNBA is just trying to find their way with that. But I think that's the key is like player marketing. You have players who have these followings who are really good. You need more teams that have more spots. You can keep these players in the league so you can get their followers. It's like the easiest way. It's like not like minimal marketing, really. You know?
Simple.
Yeah, it's like ABC. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think it'll come, but I think they're trending in the right direction. I think it'll come, but the more and more they realize that like basketball is about player driven. Like me personally, like I said, we talk football, we talk basketball. You know what I mean? I like the Buccaneers. You know, if Tom Brady leaves, I'm still going to be a Buccaneers fan because it's more pieces. Basketball is more about individual players, in my opinion. It's one of the reasons why, you know, once we get to it, the Nets, as bad as they're playing right now, I mean, they got Kevin Durant. It doesn't matter.
They got
Kevin
a chance.
Durant goes off and says,
gives them a shot. Gives them a chance.
Ball, we're going to win. They're going to win. You know what I mean? So basketball is more about players more than anything. And I think if they market it, you know, like you said, with the players and everything like that in mind, and not with, I mean, obviously with the team too, but you know, more player driven, I think they'll grow up.
I have a question for you guys for WNBA. If you could pick a city where a new team is established, what would be the city? Because I also think this is a key to growing the league. If they, you know, they need new teams, so they have more spots, so more of these players can come into the league or stay in the league. But you also need it in really good locations, so you capitalize on the followers and where it is and the fans.
See, I think it'd be near a big college female hoops town. So, like, if you go to maybe Portland, where Oregon has a huge fan base, or maybe San Francisco or Oakland.
Yeah.
Or Stanford has a huge following. I mean, it's just a natural.
Okay. West Coast. You like the West Coast.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. And I was kind of piggyback off. Like I said, big major, college programs. Like, we just talked about Don Staley at South Carolina, the Carolinas.
Yep.
The Notre Dames and
the
those
whole
areas.
even like NC State is big, Duke is big, North Carolina is big. That whole region,
like a little Raleigh or Charlotte team.
Yeah.
There used to be a team out of Charlotte. There sure was a team out of Charlotte. Yeah.
Not anymore though, right?
Nope, not anymore.
Well, I mean, that's a big market.
Yeah.
There's probably a lot of little girls that want to go to games. You know what I mean? And they got to root for the next city over, and it's just like
times change. So when my thinking is just that when the team was there, the women's basketball hub was not as large.
Yeah.
But now you're absolutely correct. Like that area, it's full of women's basketball. Matter of fact, the ACC network, that's where their head is in Greensboro, North Carolina, because there are so many women's basketball teams in that area. My vote is Philly. There's not my vote is Philly. There's not like a major women's basketball team per se, but there obviously are a ton of college basketball teams in Philadelphia. It obviously has the Sixers, which you can back off of, and it's a sports city. It's like a sports city. And then you can also capitalize of like tri-state hoopers.
Do they have Boston?
No, they don't have Boston.
I mean, come on now. I mean,
I don't know. Boston is like
what?
I feel like Boston is like hit or miss. Like it can go really good, or it can go.
Connecticut's Sun takes that whole region.
I
guess they do.
Connecticut takes the UConn fans.
Yeah.
Like that is like, I was on their page and they posted about UConn in the tournament on their page. And because that's their affiliation, that's who they're pulling from. And I'm not mad about it. That's exactly what you should do.
Yeah,
you should create a basketball family with whoever you can. I think Philly though would be a really good area to do that. So my vote is Philly, but I would hope that in the next like 2-3 years they really expand to like 2 teams. I think 2 more teams.
Because I was thinking Portland because Nike's there. Oregon has a huge fan base.
Yeah, the Seattle Storm is out there too, so you have a team that's kind of close, where maybe you can create that like rivalry for the country. 100%, I like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's yet to be seen, but like I said, I mean, those are all great ideas. I hope they do it soon because I think if there's any time to do it, it's now. Why wait? Why wait? Like I said, it's a growing game. A lot of people are getting more interested. And like I said, a lot of people might look down on it. Like I said, sports betting is drawing a lot of people. I know a lot of people in my circle that on WNBA, you're a lot more attached to the game. You're not just watching it for fun. You got financial incentive. And
I should tell you a number of people, have texted me, during the tournament, like, who would you pick? I need some expertise. I'm like, whoa, I'm gonna tell you my picks, but I need 10%. If we ain't doing this for free. Like,
oh man.
but that's how I knew like sports betting was becoming a big deal. I'm like, what you talking to me about?
Yeah, and it's going all over the country now.
I love it. I love it. Yeah.
Everybody's looking for an edge, any kind of advantage. Everybody needs an edge.
We just want to get a come up. That's it.
But moving on, man. That was a great conversation. We'll close out. Let's talk a little bit about the NBA playoffs, obviously, which is today. It's 1:26 Eastern. The game is actually on now, Z, right?
Yeah, Utah, Dallas without Luka.
Game 1 without Luka.
Getting hurt in a meaningless game that meant nothing, and they played him in that game.
And like I said, we had friend to the show, Coach Daryl Armstrong, who's on the the Dallas Mavericks. Wishing those guys the best of luck. Yeah. But I'm sorry, brother. I definitely took Utah today. So Jordan Clarkson, Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert, y'all boys better hold it down. If they don't have Luka, in my opinion. Especially today, because kind of hyped for today. I'm looking forward to seeing this game because obviously I got some money on the game too. So
could you imagine if Dallas beats Utah, Donovan Mitchell may want to trade. He may leave.
I keep hearing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Ice, have you heard about the disconnect between Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert?
Yeah, they don't get along.
Yeah, I've seen tweets about it and different things like that, and it's interesting because on the guy side. When you hear players don't get along, it's like real beef. Because guys can squash stuff in 10 seconds. You know, they could be like, all right, I called you this, I called you that, and 10 seconds later, bro, good shot. Proud of you, man. Love you, homie. Like, they will let it go. Yeah. Girls will hold on things for years. Like, I still don't like some girls from AAU, and it has been 15 years. I'm like, yeah, I don't rock with her. I don't care. So I was surprised because I'm like, that, you know, they have real beef. But also, you know, Donovan hasn't been happy. I think, you know, his first couple years, like, you could see it. But I think now he's getting real hungry for a championship and feels like where he is just not giving that. And maybe that's part of his frustration too against Rudy is just, you know, I want to be surrounded blunt, like with better players. And so maybe, you know, it's the expectations being a little too high. Because I like Donovan Mitchell a lot and I like his game. So it may be time for him to go somewhere. I think
it's the other guys. The other guys are not helping. I mean, they're 2-3 reliant. I mean, they don't got no dribble penetration. It's just like if Donovan Mitchell doesn't create off the dribble and you're not open, though, like he got set. He got the Bojan Bogdanovic type. Yeah. He got the Joe Ingles. Like, I'm faster than Joe Ingles. I promise you. You know what I mean? So they so between I think they cut Joe Ingles. They released him. He got hurt, and they didn't want to pay him, so they just released him. After he was there, I think 12 years.
Yeah. And what about my boy who checked in the other day for 8 seconds to get his bonus?
Holiday from Milwaukee. That was
I said, get the bag, young king, get the bag. That's right.
But look, that going to Milwaukee, though, that just shows top to bottom the type of organization they are. They don't want him to get hurt, but they want him to get that extra money. So put him in for 10 seconds, foul, and walk out. And it's supported from ownership on down.
And that makes a difference in where you want to stay, you know, because some people I'm sure was looking like, dang, somebody want to let me do that, you know? But yeah, I think the series that I'm most paying attention to is the Celtics and the Nets. That's gonna be awesome. I'm really pulling for the Nets. We've discussed I have a thing against Boston. I don't know why, but I just do. But I'm really pulling for the Nets. One, I just love Kai. I'm not a huge KD fan in terms of I'm still like hung up with him like creating the super teams thing, you know, and like not I can't really let it go, but I love, you know, obviously you got to respect his game. Like he's one of the best scorers that we've seen in my lifetime. But yeah, I think I'm really pulling for the Nets. I think it'll be tough though, obviously. But they're gonna have to play like pretty close to perfect to be able to get that. But that's a series that I'm looking at and be like, nah, they're gonna get it.
Let me ask you this. What do you think about I've been saying it for the longest, man. The Nets it's gonna be so hard for them to win because they're so handicapped at the coaching spot. Steve Nash, man. And Z already knows how. I mean, this guy, every fucking game I watch this guy.
Yeah.
He makes no adjustments. He allows people to get, teams to get back in the game. I mean, he just gives the ball. Obviously, he doesn't run plays. He just allows the guys to go isolate. Like nothing's drawn up. It's just like give the ball to KD. If that doesn't work, give the ball to Kyrie and just see what happens. It's just like, man, you got to learn how to coach. And then you also have to recognize, like, obviously, NBA is about scoring points. He's not teaching them anything on the defensive. He has a few guys, that play defense, but they're not committed, And then, I know that, what's the gentleman?
Udoka, who was in Brooklyn, now in Boston. And look what he did from the first month of the season. I think they started out 3-14. It was disarray. They said split up Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum.
I remember,
and how he completely turned it around on that team. Mm-hmm. And they controlled the league the last 2 months of the season. I mean, the second half of the season, they were the best team.
They've been a powerhouse. Yeah, they've been dominant. I think having former players as coaches is tough. Mm-hmm. We saw it with like Jason Kidd. Like we were surprised, about his outcome. And I think it's because they come from an era where, like, to me, it was about the players. Yeah. Like you didn't really need, and this is not excluding like the Phil Jacksons of the world, the Greg Popovich, like the great coaches who have been great coaches. Right. But it was really like player versus players. It was really like my players are better than yours. Not I'm putting them in situations and I'm hiding certain people. It wasn't all about the schemes. I think now, like, because there are so many super teams, everybody got 4 or 5 superstars.
Yeah.
So it ain't really about like, yo, playing pick up and go one-on-one. It's like, nah, how can we strategically manage these superstars? That's why Steve Kerr is so great. That is literally why they were so dominant. Yes, he had all these great people, but like also the system he put them in allowed them to thrive. Like it allowed Klay Thompson to make 11 shots with only 1 dribble. Crazy.
Yeah. That is a crazy stat, though. That is mind blowing.
That's not Klay. That's the system. Right. So I just feel like Steve Nash's system is like built on, I have great players who can make plays and who can dominate the league. And like, obviously they have proven that they are the best in the league, but I don't think he's heavy on the strategy side just because he's got best player. He's like, yo, give them the ball and go to work and get a bucket. And we even saw that, in the finals last year, KD getting tired, like getting tired of literally making buckets and big play. Yeah. After big play. And when I think back to it, I'm just like, it just kind of wasn't strategic. It was just like, dude was going like 1-on-5 every play. And like, we witnessed greatness, but at the end, like it wasn't enough because you still got to be strategic with that. So I think that's why I think sometimes it's hard for these former players who were superstars themselves because all somebody told Steve was, yo, go run this pick and roll with Stoudemire and make that thing work. That's all they told him.
And he's on the coaching staff too. I saw him. That's the funny thing.
That's all they told him was like, yo, y'all two go ahead and run the world and just see who can stop you. So I think that too is kind of like these players who we see, these former players who we see that were superstars come in and that's their style of play. They're less coach, more player driven. And then you have the Steve Kerrs of the world, obviously played at a high level, very good, like play with Mike, made plays and everything like that. But he comes from a more strategic side. Yeah. Like, yes, let me get
Popovich and Phil Jackson.
100%, 100%. Like that's what we're seeing. So
but that's the thing. Udoka was with San Antonio forever. And so that's when you see how Boston plays defensively,
they play just like
they share the ball. That's San Antonio. That is.
I mean, defense to me is like, I'm like NBA. Like, when do you really see defense? Like, there are certain teams who are known for like having a staple of playing defense, but otherwise, it's kind of like nobody focuses on that. We just focus on outscoring the other team.
You're right.
We focus on outscoring the other team. I think the Suns play a really good style of basketball. Like I normally,
it's smooth. It's real smooth.
Oh my goodness, it just looks so like smooth. It's like we're in heaven. Like it's beautiful, but it's concise. It's put together. It's both ends of the floor. But I was, talking to the kids. One of the kids that I was training. They were asking me like, "Hey, I'm trying to learn more. I'm watching basketball. Like, who can I watch?" And I'm like, you know what? Normally, I don't suggest the NBA. Because it's showtime. It's about showtime. If you watch the NBA, you won't get on my court when we train and be like, "Can I shoot threes from the volleyball line?" And I'm gonna say no. Like, go watch go watch college basketball if you really want to learn the game. But the Sun is an organization, like also Golden State. Sometimes when Steph isn't losing his mind and doing things that we just never seen before, where you can watch and learn the game. Like you can learn the game from watching them. You see, some of these other teams, you can't really say that. You just like are in awe of the fact of what they're doing, but you're not learning anything. You're just like, only Kai can do that. Only can do. Only the superstar, only James Harden could do that step back like that. You're not really learning anything. Yeah. But I definitely think the Suns like put out a good product on the floor, and I'm so happy for CP3. Like I love I love Devin Booker. I want CP to get one. Honestly, I just don't know if they got enough. But
let's talk about CP3 because I mean it's been a long every year, man. He gets hurt. He finds the way to get hurt. I remember that series when he was on the Rockets. I'm like, oh, they smashing the Warriors. Smashing them 3-1. He gets hurt and they come back and lose.
And think about it, that was James Harden. Imagine James Harden's narrative.
Yes.
If they would have won the championship that year, his narrative moving forward versus the way his narrative.
Wasn't KD on the team too?
No, he was with Oklahoma City.
Okay, he was on.
So this was Houston. They were up on Golden State.
Yeah.
Chris Paul gets hurt.
Yeah.
Steph goes crazy. Game 7. Golden State survives, and then they win the title.
Yep. You can't really speak to people getting hurt because it's just like you get
But
hurt.
it's every year, Ice. Like every
I
year,
feel you, but
almost.
I don't think my man's is faking it. I think he's
Yeah,
legitimately
he's not.
hurt. I
He
just feel
falls
like
apart. He just
Yeah,
because
apart,
they
literally.
lost the last 2 games at home, 6 and 7 at home.
But check
I
this
And
out.
Golden
And
State went on to win the title.
yeah.
But you know why they lost this, Ice. I'm gonna let you go after this. But
You can-
I mean, look at what Giannis did. Like
Wow.
he absolutely. I mean, it was just a massacre. What's the big man on the Heat?
True.
Oh, I forget. You know what I'm talking about? The big man for the Suns.
Ayton.
Ayton. Oh my God,
Yeah.
he just took his heart every trip down the floor, just straight body and just bang. I'm just like, yo, are you gonna do anything?
Different. He's different. He's different.
Look, I think we're gonna get a rematch this year, and it's gonna be crazy to see because Ayton has improved so much this year over last year.
Or has he not played Giannis?
Oh, no, well, so we'll see.
If Giannis gets mad, you can't fuck with him. That's the thing. A lot of people, because I saw it last year. I was like, I mean, I love Giannis, but this is KD. Like in the series. Yeah. And I bet a lot of money on the Nets. I think this is KD. I mean, Giannis is cool. He came out there and just stepped on dude, just came down. Everybody knew what he was doing. Just come straight down the lane, just bang on people, body people, and just work way harder than each and every person on the court.
That's what it is. Like Giannis, like, yes, obviously, you know, he's like freak of nature and stuff, and he's like athletically gifted, but he just is outworking people.
Yes.
Like half of his play, he's just a dog. Like I think it's interesting. Because you get to this level and you think everybody's a dog. But like he just took it to another level. He just was outworking people. It was just like, nah, like he a grown man and you a kid out here. And that was really just him proving himself. And even this year, like he's continued to grow his game. Like him, you know, shooting step backs and incorporating the mid range. And like, I'm just like, I'm actually in awe of like his level of hunger that you can see for the game. Like just the continue of like growth that you can see. I think it's so cool. He gives me like Kobe vibes in that way. You know, like even in his last year was like, yo, I'm still getting better at something. Like this
KD was talking about that because I saw an interview with KD and he said Giannis has improved his mid-range shooting percentage every year for the last 8 years. And he said when he started, he was at 23%. This year, he's at 39%.
It's ridiculous.
And every year, it's gone up every single year for the last 9 years.
His free throw shooting, everything. You know what I mean?
He's just hungry. You could just tell he's just hungry. And it's just like, he don't ever look satisfied, even though you could, you know, like arguably you're the best player in the world, but he just don't ever look satisfied. I feel like every now and then we get a glimpse of satisfaction from some players like James Harden or Westbrook, poor Westbrook. And we just be like, come on, you know?
Yeah.
But he just is super hungry.
Yeah. I was going to ask you this because, I mean, you've been overseas, so it seems like they've taken over the game. Luka Doncic, Embiid, Giannis. I mean, the Joker.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. It makes yes.
Have y'all watched his passing reel? His passing reel alone. I'm like, bro, how do you do that?
It's just crazy. It just seems like but the thing is, it seems like they work way harder than people, you know. I mean, they're all from overseas.
Yeah.
Than, you know, people that are in the US based players. It's like they get the fame and stuff like that. Then it's like they stop. In my opinion, it kind of seems like they stop working. Like these guys don't willingly sit out due to rest, like Giannis and Embiid and Joker.
Luka, for example, why he's not playing today. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, I think from my experience, you know, in doing some training in Germany overseas, is that the style of training that you get in the US, the one-on-one training and the things that are available just aren't like that over here yet. Yeah. And so the players that are able to get glimpses of those things when they're young, and the players that can like mesh that European style with American style, are the ones that we're seeing that can really master both, are the ones that we're seeing like coming to the top. And you're absolutely right. Like it is definitely, you know, Luka's weird kind of style of play, unorthodox style of play that is like king. You know, that right now is like, yo, how are you even doing that? And can nobody stop you? Nobody has an answer. But I think that's what it is meshing the European style with the American style and getting the best of both worlds. And I think that's what some of those European players are really showing. Overseas players are really showing. You know, Giannis obviously is huge over here. it is really cool to
Man,
walk
I
out
love Giannis, yo.
and see like his picture in the bus station, you know, or to be on a commercial and to see him and you're like, wow, that's dope. Like this man right here is the biggest player in the world now and the biggest player back home, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely cool. But you know, this the basketball style. It almost makes you wonder, like if you're raising a child, what style do you want them to know? You know, and how can you do it? Like, what is the route to go? Obviously, like the basic is just everybody should be a guard. If there's anything now, like everybody should be a guard. I don't care if you birth like a 7-footer. Everybody should be a guard.
Yeah.
Everybody should be a guard to start, and then you grow from there.
And Trae Young shows you size doesn't matter. If you can play, you can play.
100%.
Did you see the game last night?
We love Trae Young. I did not see the game last night.
Oh,
No,
man.
I mean he just went on a rant.
Oh, you know, he hates the Cavs, so I saw he was going at them. I saw highlights and everything like that. He takes
he waved goodbye to the fans. He said goodbye, get on out of here.
Yeah, he was baking. What's the guard? LeVert, Chris LeVert, brother. I'm sorry.
LeVert, yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. Oh
man.
Like I think every trip down the
30,
floor.
34 in the second half.
Yeah, just simple pick and roll. Well, not simple. I mean, can't nobody stop it. It's not simple, but comes off that pick and roll.
Yeah.
It's just like, okay, do you step up on him? Do you play him close? He's gonna run by you. He's gonna pass it. He's gonna shoot it. He's gonna hit the floater. It's like, what do you do? They still have not. I thought it was gonna be fixed.
Flow game is like insane.
Yes.
It's like you don't know when it leaves, if that's for the basket or it's the alley-oop. They look the same. Like you could clip it, and like each one looks the same. And it's just like it's money every time, whether it goes in or whether it's alley-oop. Like his flow game is insane, and it's so hard to guard. You can't guard that. Like when he can shoot at any time, you really can't guard that. You just gotta hope he misses.
I'm just like, man, this little guy is giving people so many problems. Because I saw it last year, and then I picked the Hawks to lose every series. I picked them to lose the Knicks series. I picked them to lose. Who did they play after the Knicks? They lost. They beat somebody.
They beat the Sixers.
They beat the Sixers.
Oh, they did. Oh man, I was hurt.
Like after that, I was just like, man, you really.
I was hurt.
Trae Young,
being a Sixers fan, they keep upsetting me. They keep breaking my heart.
Man,
That's fine.
This might be the year. Toronto. We'll see.
We'll see, man. I mean, Ice, like I said, I know we're gonna get you out of here. We held you a little long. We're gonna let you go, but like I said, it's good seeing you again, man. Like I said, feel free to reach out anytime. And anyone you want to shout out before hopping off the show?
Honestly, I just want to shout you out. I just want to say that since we've been on the show, like you've checked in with me overseas, asked me how games have gone.
Always.
And I just want to say I appreciate that. You know, overseas it gets lonely over here. When you're kind of by yourself and it's a few people on the team who speak your language. And so it has meant a lot to me, all the people who have checked in and just asked for game links and made sure I'm doing all right. So I just want to say I just appreciate you checking in. It was really nice to know that we, created a relationship, a friendship through this.
Oh, for sure.
So I appreciate you for doing that.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, you're like my best friend. I don't even know. I think she's like you can just tell the chemistry. She just seems like a cool, dope lady, man. And like I said, I just love the energy, the passion. Like I said, I just really enjoy your story. And you just come up with just like a real easygoing, smooth, genuine person. You know what I mean?
Don't hype me up. Listen, don't hype me up. I don't need any more hype over here.
Well, it is what it is. But like I said, thanks for coming on the show, and you're welcome anytime. So
thank you guys so much. So good to see you guys. Roman, Big Z, y'all are doing great. Love the conversation, and hope I'm on again soon. And I hope Jay doesn't duck me again. I just hope Jay doesn't duck me again.
Yeah, Jay, man, stop running, man. Stop running for the lady. You know what I mean? But we'll see you guys.
Good luck in the playoffs.
Oh, yeah, good luck.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right, take it easy.
Okay.
See everybody.